Okay, hello everyone. I am updating on the 15th, so we're now just about at the halfway mark of the month. And this is the point where you start to panic and wonder how you will ever finish anything because there's so much to do and everything you have is so far behind. Um, but that's just how it is. I actually have a 4-day weekend coming up with the this Friday being a day I don't work and Monday being a holiday here in the United States. So that will actually help a lot. So let's go ahead and check out what we've got right now. Um, First thing you'll notice right here is I added a water plant right there, dripping water. I don't know if you can see that on the recording, but there it is. I know this records at about 14 frames a second, so it's pretty low. Still haven't added the holding animation, but I'll add that eventually. So let's pick this up and we'll go over to our dude here and toss it. And you see he's got frozen. Now I can go over here to the fire, throw that, unfrozen. Okay. Um, Now that would be pretty pointless otherwise, but you can grab it, freeze them, and then push. Let's push them off the thing there. And by doing that, you can move him around. Right? He won't move otherwise. So we'll move him over there. Oops, I missed it. I think if maybe I can come up with a way to throw the things. If you're jumping and you press down, it'll throw down or up. Yeah, let's do that. We'll make it so you can throw the seeds in different directions. Oh, dang it. Yeah. Um, but yeah, you can push them now while they are doing that. And basically now I think we are done. There it goes. We are done with all of the movement states, and I think we're pretty much set. Um, Other than I think we are going to add in, grab that. All right. I think we are going to add in the ability to throw the seed in different directions because I think that's a good idea. So since everything else works, variable height jumping. Did I did I add that? I don't remember if I added that. I remember mentioning it. I think I may have. I may have. Oh, I got a tweet right now from McFunky Pants, which I'll mention in a moment. I mentioned, yeah, I did. I mentioned that I was going to add it, and I added it, and then I fixed the timer so that it works correctly. So basically, we're at the point right now where I need to do two things. I need to start designing levels and building the actual game part of it. I was hoping to have more than like a week and a half because I was hoping to test it. And at this point, as I start doing that, I'm going to have builds up, and if people want to comment on YouTube, please feel free to do so. If you're interested in making levels, we'll talk about that in a moment. Um, Now, let's take a look at the code that we've changed since then. So I don't think oh no, I did actually quite a bit. I did do a lot yesterday. I refactored a whole bunch of things and I commented out all this stuff basically with the idea that, whoops, um, I did all this stuff basically with the idea that other people would maybe be curious about it. Um, you know, Added in some to-do notes. I don't like to comment tons and tons, but if I'm doing something that I'm not entirely sure what I'm doing, that I will do it. In this case, I was doing it with the idea that maybe other people would like to use it as a base or learning. I don't think anybody will, but just in case. However, I spent almost all of last night trying to get Git to work. Um, I've used it before. It's not like it's the first time I've done it, but it's just oh. I downloaded the Git for Windows for GitHub, and I ended up having problems that I think were due to permissions because I'm storing this on a. If you see here, I'm storing this on a Box account. Box.com. It's like Dropbox basically, except I have a lot more space on it. And it has a lot of other features, but I don't actually use those. And it doesn't like shared accounts because it wants like administrator access to do things, and then it sort of like messed up the repository, and then I can't clone it now. It tells me that I'm offline. It's just, and it gives me these really vague error messages, and it's so confusing. And I don't know. I put the initial build of it up on GitHub if you really are curious. I'm not going to link it, I don't think. I'm going to try to do it, but I may just simply put up what I have at the end of the month, and have that there, because I think it's a Windows thing partially too, because I've had this issue before where on a game that I was doing that was meant to go to Heroku, getting Git to work sometimes was just a pain, because it doesn't play that well with Windows. Windows has a lot of permissions things that are weird when you have things like different shared files, which I guess are set all read-only and set to certain permissions because the program likes that, blah, blah, blah. Pain in the butt. So yeah. So here's what we got to do. We got to build out levels. We have the basic mechanics in, but I think I'm going to add 3 different things. So here's kind of our to-do list to go forward. I'm going to have 2 different monsters. One of them shoots out jets. So if you have hot jets, how about this? I was thinking hot jets would... yeah, hot jets and cold jets. What I was thinking is that when you have the balloons, right, there'd be jets that would be shooting across here that would let you... I'm going to move to an area where I can get... I don't have any animation. It should make it the much smaller encode. Right, so you have jets blowing, and then you can get, and I'm going to start running anyway, jets blowing, and then it'll push you around so that you can set up these chains, right? So, so say you have a monster, and say we have our spikes up there. You push it out of the way, and you push it over here, and then you might set up throw the seed at the guy, and he starts spitting out fire, and that fire pushes you over, or spitting out ice, and maybe you'll have that. So you have these different kind of chain effects. Oh, so like another idea is that there's a second monster which is kind of like the inflatable one, so it makes walls and platforms. You can push them around and do that. That should actually be really simple, because now we have pushing in the game. And the third one will be these kind of pushy monsters that will push other monsters. So you can set up these chains between stuff that influences other things and stuff that pushes things around, right? So if you have that pushy monster, it won't push this guy, but it will if he's frozen. Fire will make him move, but ice will make him stop, and so on. And what was the other thing I was going to say? Oh yeah, I think what I'm also going to do is I'm going to add variations of these plants which simply hang from the ceiling and drip down either fire or ice, which will not only let me show the player how the mechanics work before they interact with it directly, because I really don't want to have a tutorial level. I don't want to have any tutorials or levels or any of that. I just want you to jump in the game and start exploring and figure it out. But I don't know that you can by just experimenting with things. You won't necessarily get it. So I'm going to say I want to train the player by showing them, for instance, that there's a drip here. It drips on the guy. He floats up, right? And you kind of get the idea of how it goes. Okay, so that's 3 different monsters to add, but they're pretty uninvolved, so they're not too bad. And then another thing, which is not very hard, I think I can do that one. It's pretty much just the same thing here, only it spawns a different kind of seed that drops down. And building the levels out. I think we're at the point where we can start building the first few, because we're going to introduce mechanics, just moving, jumping, and so on. I'm going to have a menu screen, which will show you, which will allow you to configure the controls, pretty much. And I would like to have save points, and I haven't really done saving using cookies in Flash before, but I'd like to do that so that you don't have to play it all in one sitting, but maybe I won't have time for that. I've never done that, and I don't necessarily want to start on anything that I have never done. So yeah. Now, yeah. So that's basically it. I actually refactored a lot of things and really kind of organized everything. It's much neater and much cleaner now. Move stuff around. Generally, it's not a gorgeous thing, right? I'm not a good programmer. I don't really have everything. I do certain things that I know are not necessarily good ideas. This could be a switch statement, for instance, but I don't really care. I don't know why I didn't use a switch. I think because I was going to have more than one things being checked, other than just the direction. And I don't comment every single thing. I comment basically where it's not obvious. Right. In this case, for instance, I only would comment this because I want to make sure that we know that we're learning that what spawns here means is the plant and monster spawns. Well, for instance, the spawn plant spawns not only a plant, but it also adds a seed that is associated with the plant. Oh, I changed this, so you can pass in the type of seed you want, and it spawns it. Yeah, this is, for the most part, I don't comment things if I don't think they're terribly necessary to do so, because it's just not kind of thing. But I did comment a little more than I normally do because I need to do that. Now let's take a look at the balloon guide for a moment. I don't think there's anything interesting to see here. Actually, he just has 3 different states you can be in. Right here, they're defined by different numbers. Where are they? Oh, I put it in the monster class. Right, they can be in 3 different states, and they can switch between them. Right. If then switching around. Did I screw something up? No, I didn't. Okay. The pushing mechanic is actually a little bit wonky. It's not as clean as I would like, because there's a lot of things that kind of have to interact. Basically, the player here, when the player starts, when the player collides here with something on the X, right, left or right, we check to see that it's a mobile, and that mobile then is pushable. If it is, then we see that this here facing, if we check to see that it's facing direction, that it's on the side that the player is facing. The reason is I don't, just in case, I don't have it currently, but the possibility could exist where the monster could be moving and the player could be facing away, and they would still collide, and therefore it would set it as being that. And the way I have it is I simply set the pushing to be the mobile or null, and I do that a lot. And I don't know that it's probably bad practice, but it's super convenient to simply use true or false by meaning null or not null. And then in the movement states for normal here, we added a push timer, just like the other trigger timer, and this player pushing thing. So basically, I split off the checking for the pushing here. So down here, we check to see that we are pushing, right? And we return if we are or are not. If we don't have anything to push, we're not pushing anything, obviously. If we're facing in the direction, right, we check to see that we didn't release that key, or that we never were holding it in the first place. This was to get some edge cases where this wasn't happening. And then we also say, is it on the right side, the correct side of it? Well, why did I do this? There was a reason why I did that. I think for some reason, sometimes this happens if you release it during that current frame. I forget why, but occasionally it was happening that even if you weren't holding it down, it never got this one. I don't know. There was some weird little edge case that was happening, and I was pushing monsters out of distance, which would be a cool game, but it's not this one. And we return to true, and then we check it for the same thing for left. Yeah, and we make sure that it's facing, it's on the correct side of it, right? And we have two triggers. I set here to be the trigger and untrigger. True or false, that's all, right? And so basically, our trigger timer is set so we have to push for half a second before our pushing begins. And it's kind of tricky to tell because I don't have the animation in, but at some point I will. Right, so I have a pushing animation. Whoop. Come on, get in there. There you go. Okay, so we could drop him in there, for instance, or make pits, or make all kinds of stuff, right? There could be spikes at the bottom, and you could drop them down here, and you can, you know, make stairs. I don't know. There's a whole bunch of ideas that you can do with a few little building blocks. Okay, so yeah, there's a lot of other things to do, a lot of little animation things. Oh. This is why I said at the beginning that this is the point at which I start to panic when I realize how much there is. When I see that I'm doing okay as far as what I've got so far, but that I also know, why do I have some of these things in here? But that I also know how much more there is to do to make it polished. My goal for this month was basically to make something that was fairly polished, that had graphics, animation, music, sound effects, stuff like that, stuff that I normally leave out in a Ludum Dare game. Okay, and so I mentioned this tweet. Basically, I was considering doing a Minecraft mod for my next one. I've never done a Minecraft mod, and I've never really done Java. But I know C# okay, and it's fairly similar. And Minecraft modding doesn't seem incredibly terribly complex. So I put it out there to see if people thought that that would be something that should count for one game a month, right? I mean, there's no rules, but I'd still like to do things that are within what people consider the spirit of the event, right? I don't want to make a script for work and say, oh well, I'm done. I don't think that's within the spirit of the event. I want to learn how to make game related stuff. And you know, if people say go for it, enjoy, then I'll do that. I have an idea for what mod I want to do. And we'll talk about that later. I don't know if I'll have that. That might be a train wreck because I've never done it before, right? I've done platformers before, so I know how to do this. It's just a matter of doing all of it, right? There haven't really been any times where I've been completely stuck on an issue. The only time there was because I was just missing one stupid little line where I had set something. And the GitHub issue yesterday, that was driving me crazy. Alright, so I'll see you next time, I guess.